Hey guys, it's Nihongo Johnny. Welcome if you're new. My name is Johnny and I talk about all things paranormal in Japan. Today I am filming from my new apartment, so you guys might notice that I'm filming in my kitchen right now, and that's because that's the only clean room in this entire apartment right now. So I'm hoping to have my old setup sometime soon and then kind of get back to the way things were. Because it's nearing almost all of the winter holidays, I thought I'd do a winter holiday themed video. And today we're going to be talking about the Snow Woman, or the Yuki Onna. In Japanese, Yuki means snow and Onna means woman. This legend is pretty old. It's almost a century old by now, if not older, and it's about a ghost of a woman who died in the snow. It is said that she kills travelers and passers-by on stormy winter nights. Depending on the legend, her appearance always changes. However, she always has a white kimono. She's very pale and cold to the touch. Sometimes they'll say she has long black hair and glowing violet eyes. No matter what, she's very beautiful, and a lot of people can't help but fall in love with her. It is said that if you're lucky enough, she'll fall back in love with you and spare your life. There's even a lot of stories about her falling in love with men and living long, happy lives with them. However, because she's a ghost, she doesn't really age, and that's when the men will notice that something's not right. And once they find out that she's Yuki Onna, they usually leave her. Those who are not as lucky get killed by the Yuki Onna. She usually sucks the life out of your mouth with a cold breath. It's sort of like when you go outside on a cold winter's day and you take a breath and just smoke comes out. It is said that's what it looks like. Sometimes she'll be holding a baby and saying, "Please help, my baby's so heavy, just hold her for one moment." And if you say yes and hold the baby, it will grow heavier and heavier, sinking you into the snow. And she will leave you there to freeze to death. Now the Yuki Onna isn't always evil. Sometimes there are stories of her being good. So I'm gonna tell 3 of my favorite stories that I've heard when I was in Japan about the Yuki Onna. The first one of these is kind of a scary story, and the other ones are a little bit more heartening. So afterwards, let me know what you guys think is your favorite. This first story tells of 2 hunters. This is a father and his son was only 16 years old. One day they went to an island to go hunting, and that's when a blizzard started, but they decided to keep hunting anyways. By the time they got back to the shore to take the ferry home, they realized the ferry had already left, and no one was on the island. They were stuck and they didn't know what to do, so they stayed in the house of the guy who ran the ferry. There wasn't any electricity back then, and they didn't have any fires to keep them warm. So they laid out a couple of futons and went to bed. The son woke up in the middle of the night to see this white woman standing over his father. She was doing something really weird and blowing a cold breath into his mouth. He was scared and couldn't move, so he just tried to go back to bed thinking it was a dream. But when he woke up once again, he reached out for his father, only to find that he was frozen solid. The boy was really scared, and when he looked around the room, he saw the white woman standing there. She told the son, "I feel really bad for you, so I'm not gonna kill you. But if you tell this story to anyone, I will have my revenge, and I will kill you." This scared the son so much that he did just as he was told. He never told the story to anyone. He went about living his life and he continued hunting. But one day he came across a beautiful woman and she kind of looked familiar. He got to know her more and more and they eventually fell in love. He never quite realized, but this was the Yuki Onna, or the Snow Woman. Over time they ended up getting married and they had tons of children. I think it was about 10. Everyone in the village loved the Snow Woman, but there was something a little bit off. Even though the women of the village were aging, the Snow Woman did not age one day, even though she had 10 children. One cold snowy evening, the Yuki Onna was sitting there sewing, and her husband said, "Seeing you there in that light reminds me of something. I've never told this to anyone in my life." The man began to tell the story of what happened that night to his father, and the Yuki Onna stood up in a rage. Her eyes grew violet. She got really angry and grabbed his throat and said, "I told you to never tell that story to anyone, and if it wasn't for our children, I would kill you by now. However, I'm gonna let you go free. I'm gonna leave all of our children to you, and if I ever hear of one complaint, I will come back and kill you, just as I promised." The woman turned into a white mist and flew out the window, never to be seen again. This next story is a little bit shorter, so I'm just gonna read this one. And this is called The Snow Wife. There was a young man who lived alone in the mountains. He worked all day and came home late at night. One evening there was a blizzard. While he was drying his kimono by the fire, he heard a voice calling, "Good evening, good evening." He opened his door and saw a woman who looked as if she had just been born. She had soft and slightly red skin. He wondered what she was doing all the way out there in the mountains alone. But he hurried her inside anyways. He asked her if she wanted to stay for a while. She nodded her head and said softly, "Okay." From that day on, she would see him off early in the morning and be there to welcome him every night. She always made him delicious food. And when he was sick, she stayed awake, caring for him. One day, the man finally asked her to marry him. And she was so happy, she nodded without saying a word. From that day on, they lived as a happy married couple. And the days of snowstorms became fewer and fewer, and all the snow outside began to melt. From there on, his wife seemed to become more and more unhealthy. However, she continued to do work around the house, still cooking and cleaning. The snow had almost melted completely, and the sun's rays were growing strong. His wife became less and less energetic each day. A few days later, the man went back to the mountains to work. He kept working and cutting down trees. However, he was so worried about his wife. He ended up not being able to finish his job and went home early. He rushed home and looked for his wife, but his wife was nowhere to be found. He couldn't find her in or around the house. He sat down by the fireside and cried. It was then that he realized his wife had been Yuki Onna. That was not a scary story, but it was very touching and very sad. He loved this woman so much, only to have her disappear. I always wondered if his wife remained there in spirit, or if she just disappeared completely. What do you guys think? This final story is similar to ones I've heard before, and I think it's in almost every culture. In this story, the Yuki Onna appears, and she visits two houses. One family is a very rich and wealthy family, and the other one's poor. So first she visits the rich family. It's a cold and stormy winter night, and she says to the rich family, "Please, I need somewhere to stay. I'm so cold, I'm just passing through. May I please stay in your house?" And the rich family says, "What do we care what happens to you?" And they send her off on her way. She then visits the poor family. And the poor family says, "Oh my gosh, it's so cold. Please come in. Get in here quick. Let's warm you up." And the husband makes a fire for the woman, and she sits by the fire. The wife makes some porridge and gives it to her. And they treat her with such kindness. They even lay out a futon for her that they plan to sleep on at night. And the husband and wife go to sleep on a bed of straw. By the time morning comes around, the wife goes to check on the woman, but she's not there. She finds a note by the bed. And the note reads that "You have been so kind to me, and I'm the Yuki Onna, and I was destined to die by the end of winter. I'm just so happy that you guys have given me such a nice ending. I have left my gratitude inside my kimono." And the wife looks in the bed to find a soaking wet kimono that the snow woman had been wearing. And when she picks it up, a bunch of gold coins fall out everywhere. I thought that was a very nice and heartening story. What did you guys think? It has a nice lesson to it, which I think is really good around the holiday time. And also, please let me know which story was your favorite in the comments below. Before I end, I wanted to give a couple of shoutouts. The first one is to my friend Sightless Sonderer, and he is the one who made the music for this entire video. He makes tons of really great music, and I'll put his link in the description below if you guys want to check it out. And I also wanted to give a shout out to YeahManProductions, who made the new artwork for my channel. You guys can check it out on my main page or on Twitter, and he did an amazing job. So I'm gonna link his Twitter in the description below as well, and if you guys want to check it out, please do. The last thing I wanted to mention is some of you guys have been asking for merch, which I haven't been too big on, but I decided to make it because I got so many requests, and I put some of the new artwork on t-shirts and things like that, and I'll link the store in the description below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys have an amazing holiday, whichever holiday you guys celebrate, and if you haven't already, please hit subscribe, hit that thumbs up, and hit the bell for more notifications. I put out new videos every Friday. And I will see you guys next week for another spooky video.